better than your currency. Splurging millions, buying houses like Monopoly. Fucking 9 to 5, man, the money is a joke to me. Buying cryptocurrency, my money in the privacy.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the B.Invested Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is the show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the Matrix. I'm waking up to motherfucking reality. And I did that little bit extra oomph with it this time, right? Because I hear opinions all the time, right? And this week's episode is opinions don't pay the bills. So I see so many people with opinions, but the opinions don't add up. The opinions don't pay the bills. It doesn't make sense, right? There's so many people out there that have got so much fucking shit that's coming out of their mouth about their opinion, but it's based on what, right? So you look out there, and I've always thought I'll take advice from those who have what I want, or are doing what I want, or being what I want. And it doesn't matter what area of your life, right? And I'm here talking about property. I'm here talking about wealth. I'm not here talking about your health. I'm not here talking about your diet. I'm not here talking about your relationship. I'm not talking about your happiness and your chakra or anything like that. Go to a different YouTube channel for that, and get the advice that you want to align yourself with. But I see so many people that go, well, all these things that are just lies, right? They might sound okay because they've been pressured into you from your mum, your dad, your brother, sister, uncle, auntie, friend, neighbor, co-worker, whatever the case may be. And they just don't add up. So if we go through them, I've got 8 here today to run through, and they're just common myths, but they're just opinions that people have. And I think they keep people broke. So let's look at the first one, which is interest rates, right? A lot of people think that interest rates go up, property prices fall. Well, we're in a market now, interest rates have gone up 30 times what they were last year. 30, right? When you think about 10 basis points to 310 basis points, that's what the basis points, it was 0.1% interest rate. Now it's 3.1% interest rate. It's gone up 30 times from where it was last year. Have we seen property prices fall? In the markets that I'm buying in, that at the cheap end of town with high cash flow, they have actually gone up in value. If we look at some of the top end of town, those areas have gone up. There's a small segment which may have come back maybe 10% from their peak, but they're probably never worth the property price anyway. It's just FOMO and shit like that because of all the stimmy checks coming out to first home buyers and all those sorts of things. But people think interest rates go up, property prices have got to fall. It's a very different market to 2009, but in 2009, 2007, 2006, 2005, etc., the markets were very different at that point. If we look at the last interest rate hike that we had in Australia, that was 2010 interest rate hike. 2009, 2010 interest rates went up. And what happened to the property markets? Well, Sydney went up, Melbourne went up, Perth was in a boom at the time. Queensland went up. So all these markets had gone up, even though interest rates had gone up probably about 4 times in that period. So it just goes to show, myth busted on interest rate rises means property prices drop. Second one is house is better than a unit, right? Who says that, right? People that go, oh, well, you'd rather buy the house because you don't have to pay strata levy. Well, let's go to areas, right? Like a lot of areas that have gone to, I'm just thinking whether it be Mount Druitt back in the day, whether it be the Gold Coast back in the day, whether it be the areas that I'm buying in today. The areas that I'm buying in today, you can buy a townhouse for 150, you can buy a house for 300. The house rents for 400, the townhouse rents for 350 a week. You go to like the Gold Coast with similar sort of numbers back in the day. You're paying double for the house, but the rent isn't double, right? Yes, you're saving from paying strata levies, but what is the extra bills attached to the house price? Well, the extra bills that are attached is land tax. You have to pay much greater when it comes to a house versus a unit. You've got to, if there's an issue with your driveway out there, if there's an issue with the gutters falling off, you have to pay for that. It doesn't come under strata. Insurance, building insurance. When you're buying a house, you have to pay for building insurance. When you're buying a townhouse or a unit or a villa, it's generally covered with inside of that figure. So does the house go up more than a unit? Well, if I look at all the areas that I've bought in, the units and townhouses have probably gone up a little bit higher because of the affordability for people to be able to get into. So a house might go from, 500 grand to 800 grand, but a unit might go from, 200 grand to 500 grand. So, it's not correlated. People looking at paying down a property as quick as possible. So cash is very important. You should pay off your loan as quick as possible. Well, I could sit here and say to you guys, hi, my name's Nathan. I've bought 3 properties. I've worked hard, paid them off. I bought my first one for 250 grand in 2003. Took me 7 years to pay that off, put all my money against it. Bought the second one identical for 500,000 in 2010, and it took me another 5 years to pay that off. Worked 2 jobs, been eating tuna on toast, and I've just got my 3rd property and I'm paying that off at the moment. It's almost paid off, and now I'm worth $2 million in all my property. I've got no debt, right? I could sit here and tell you that story, or I can sit here and say, look, I've got bloody hundreds of properties, don't even know. I've got dozens of motels, don't even know. Hundreds of units. If we look at the keys inside of those, I've probably got 500 of those units inside the motels. And I've got a little bit of debt at $20 million, and I've got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of asset value and cash flow that's really cool. There's 2 different scenarios there, but people think trying to save 3% interest rate. Let's say, what's the interest rate? 3%, 4% interest rate. The worst investment someone could make is this, right? And this ain't financial advice, but just think about it, right? Just really, I'm pushing the parameters here of mindset for people. If you had a loan, let's call it $1 million, right? And you're going to pay it down. Let's say you pay $100,000 off it, right? You have $100,000 coming into your bank account. You've now got to pay tax on that. The government robs you of 30%. Let's say you got 70 grand left over. That 70 grand, you're going to put it into your mortgage, save yourself 2, 3, 4, 5%, right? Let's just say average about 4% interest rate you're saving. So you're going to earn 100 grand, get robbed 30 grand of that, 70 grand, are going to use that, going to save myself 4%. Good on you. At the same time, you're just saying that you've got 70 grand and you can't get a better return than 4%. Inflation is 7%. Inflation on a good day is 3%. So why would you want to invest into something, i.e. paying out debt, at a cheaper level of inflation? Your money is losing its value. The debt, I'd rather pay the debt off when it's nothing. I'd rather take that capital and go and buy another asset that brings me in 7% return. So let's just say, I'm just going to say I keep the whole $100,000 here. You can put 100 grand on your mortgage, save 4%, save yourself 40 grand a year. Take the 100 grand, go buy an asset. Let's say you buy a property cash outright, no debt attached to it. Brings you in 7% return. You pay off 4%, goes over there. 4 grand goes to the old loan. You still got 3 grand in your pocket. I now have a better cash flow position. Plus, I've also got another asset that's going to increase in value and get inflated away into the oblivion. So, be more strategic about it. Like a lot of people think, let's save some debt, but it's the shittest strategy I could ever thought of. Yes, I pay all my mortgages off now. My loans are principal and interest. I always love when I have a Facebook ad out there or something like that, and someone's like, oh, look at this guy. Some guy who's going to go broke. Imagine when interest rates go up. Imagine when property prices fall, whatever. They don't know I've been investing for 20 years in a property, and, the cash flow is very strong. It's just funny because there are just opinions that people have that keep them broke. So, yeah. The fourth opinion that doesn't pay the bills. Melbourne and Sydney are not going up in value. So the whole country, no properties making money. That couldn't be further from the truth. Each market is very different. If we look at the Sydney market was going up, the Perth market was falling. The Sydney market was falling, the Perth market's going up. The Sydney market's falling, Queensland's going up. Now, if we look at the market in Sydney from 2003 to 2008, the market in Sydney crashed. Pre-GFC, Sydney market turned to shit. There was bank repo letters on everyone's door. It was a very bad market for Sydney back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and even into 9. Now, if we look at Queensland, properties in, Brisbane, like the shit areas of Brisbane, were $50,000 for a townhouse, and those things went up to 240 grand. They nearly went up 4 times. And I know because I was scared. I had an opinion, Queensland won't go up in value. I can't go and renovate the property. I can't go and do this. I can't go and do that. And those opinions cost me big time, because Sydney, I was looking at Sydney thinking, well, this market must be slow because this market is as well. So understand the markets, understand what's happening in the inner market and the outer market, because you could do yourself a favor and you could be making profit and you could be missing out and hurting yourself along the way. So the biggest regrets that I have in my property investing journey are not the ones that I did, they're the ones that I didn't, and they're the ones that I didn't do because I had the monkey on my shoulder telling myself, hey, this is bad or that's bad, or you should do it this way or that or the next way. The fifth one is you should sit on the fence, wait for the market to crash, wait for interest rates to rise, and pick up the bargains. I have people message me, hey, Birchy, give me a bank repo. People don't go broke, right? Just think about it this way, right? Let's say you want me to buy your house for 200 grand. Okay, cool. I'll go buy your property for 200 grand. It rents for 350 bucks a week. Yeah, great. I want a good cash flow. How the fuck did someone go bankrupt on a property like that? If they would have probably paid, let's say they only owe 100 grand on it, right? But let's say you're buying it for 200, you're getting a loan at 150 on it, whatever the case may be. 150K loan at a 5% interest rate is 7.5 grand a year. 7.5 grand a year is 150 bucks a week. How will someone go bankrupt because they're paying $150 a week in interest rate when they were paying previously $120 a week in interest rate? Because the $30 is going to send them over the fucking cliff, are they? You think the market's going to crash and everyone's going to go bankrupt because the interest rate went up for that person by 30 bucks. But yet your rent is now you're paying $150 a week because you've got a high interest rate. Now that they've gone up so high, it used to be 100, 120, now at 150. But the rent is $350, $400 a week. Does it really add up? People are sitting out there thinking that the market's going to crash, I better jump in. By the time that they can get a property, if the market, let's say the market did fall 20%, right? Great, you go pick up a bargain, you save yourself 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. Problem being is that you probably can't service. The reason why the markets would crash is because people can't get the loans, can't get access to the capital to be able to make those deals happen themselves. Which is probably the main reason why markets do go backwards, because banks change their policies and lending and whatever in the area. But, people are still sitting there waiting to get in the market from 2020, and it didn't happen. And it didn't happen 10 years before. It didn't happen 10 years before that. So you can sit on the fence and wait just because you don't have a good enough knowledge about how property markets work, how financial markets work, and you don't have the confidence to do that. And that's fine. I think to overcome that, you need to educate yourself and find out how financial markets do work out how property markets do work, and then do make the educated decisions from there. But that's a big one I'm seeing people think of at the moment and think that they're right, and I've seen them wrong many times over the years. The sixth one, cash flow versus capital growth. I have people all the time, what do you think I should buy? Should I buy a cash flow positive property? They don't go up in value. Or should I buy a capital growth property, but they don't have the positive cash flow? I want both. I'm like that bloody Mexican kid off the taco ad. Why can't I have a taco that stands up? Do, 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 do. However the song goes, right? You know the ad, El Del Paso, right? I want it all. Why do you have to make the choice over cash flow or capital growth? It's like saying you can't have a good looking chick with a good personality. You have to have the ugly chick with a good personality. Why can't you have both, right? The opportunities are out there. You just need to go and find it. It's not so easy to go and find those sort of things. Either way, that is, guys and girls. So I like my analogies. You should sell your property and take the profit before the market crashes. So I see this out there. I don't see it so much nowadays, but I do see people writing comments on, blogs out there and stuff in the world so I get tagged and stuff on Facebook and that, and I see the comments and that. People say, I better sell. I'm going to sell my property now while the market's good and it's going to crash and all this sort of stuff. People sell properties. I've never had anyone call me up and say, hey, Birchy, I'm so happy I sold a property 10 years ago. People say, I wish I bought more. I wish I didn't sell. They bought something for 200 grand. They sold it for 500 grand. They made 300 grand, which is great. But now it's worth $1 million. So when you sell a property, you lose access to that property, you lose access to the growth, you lose access to the cash flow, and in perpetuity that is. So yeah, looking at it, I don't know people that come back and say, I'm so happy I sold a property in the past. So the mindset of selling a property because of this or that or the next thing, they're not thinking bigger picture, and they're not looking at all the potentials and all the risks of selling that property. People sell a property and they're like, oh, I just made 50 grand, just made 100 grand, just made 200, yeah, but I'm better off for this. It's like, hang on a second, you now can't get back into that market that you were just exposed to because you've sold off that asset, and you can't now afford to get back into that market. Generally, and the thing people don't think about is sell a property, but they're not thinking about a loan. The loan gets closed up and they can't go get the loan again to go and buy that thing because the lending has become more tighter for them, and they just can't get back into that market. And the final one is that properties double every 7 to 10 years, right? And it's good if you're some off the plan spruiker selling some new property and you've got a nice chart, it's a flip chart, and you're like, hey, you know, the property cycle, we're at this time on the clock and this is what's happening in the clock. It might all sound good, but it's not that linear. I see people buying in Sydney. I'm buying properties in Sydney today that are not because we're in a bad interest rate market. They're just that they're in a high migrant area. We haven't seen migration and the rents have been soft for the last few years. I'm buying properties now in Sydney for 280, 300 that used to sell for 400, 450 7 years ago. So people paid 7 years ago 400 and now I'm picking them up for 300. They shouldn't have doubled by now, but it didn't, right? I've got people that have bought in Cairns, right, for $20,000 that are now $200,000. I've got people that have bought in mining towns in Western Australia for $50,000 that are now worth $200,000 2 years ago. I've got people that have bought in regional areas of Queensland that bought for $60,000 3 years ago that are now selling for $200,000, $220,000. So, you know, you can have a property that doubles in 2 years. You can have a property that quadruples in 2 years. It's not linear. It doesn't mean that you're going to buy a property and it's going to double in that period of time. It's just a rule of thumb. If you actually overlap the 7 to 10 years to every sort of monetary contraction and monetary expansion policy, you generally overlap. Then you see, well, wow, when monetary policy changed, so did the values of the property. So, you know, just debunking myths there. So, on that front, I'm going to leave it at that today. A lot of those common opinions people look at, they don't look at it from two sides of the coin. Look at it, well, can you make money? Can you do this? Can you do that? And if you're not happy with it, don't settle for it. Most people in life just settle. They settle for whatever situation they're given, and they don't push forward to get the situation they want out of life. So always be seeking, always be looking for answers, always be looking to push yourself forward, always be looking to improve yourself. If you need help on that, on any of this sort of stuff, you want someone to talk to, reach out to us, 1300 367 925. Email us at admin@binvested.com.au. If you like what we talk about here on the podcast, make sure that you like it, share it with your friends and family, and to subscribe. You can find us on Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Just trying to think of all those attachments that we have there. All the links are in the description. We'll catch up soon. Keep being awesome, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar about to die, soon to be hyperinflated. This my 2 cents, don't care if you save it. Joint be decentralized and you will see you've been lied to the whole time, and it's the irony, cause they do the exact opposite. You become a slave to the system, enough your money, all they do is profit. There's no conspiracy theory, you better hear me. Crypto will set you free before the system does. I don't care if you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is the truth to the reason you choke. I've never been a failure, excuse my behavior. Keep talking, haters doing me a favor. They all telling lies, I know what they been telling you. I'm the opposite, the Donald Trump of Australia. It's amazing, here for the taking. My time is never wasted, just getting wasted.